Guys and girls, it's Know It time!
Alright, here we go. Applications. Applications is, I find it fun, but a lot of people hate it because it takes too much thinking. Applications. I'm going to break this up into two parts. One is before lunch, and the more challenging one is after lunch. And that's all we're going to do today. I'm going to give you a lot of time in class to work on it. Applications. So guys and gals, it's Know It time. But for now, I'm not going to do the drawing because we have a lot to do today. So I'm going to leave it the way it is. Here, there are three types of applications you should work with. Three types. We are going to do the first two types before lunch. The last type will be after lunch. Type 1. I have a nickname for every type. Type 1 is called play on, playa. Seriously, it's called play on, playa. You will not find this in any textbook, I promise you. I want to be cool like you, Grumpy. I want to be just cool just like you. I want to be just like you. You're my idol. Play on, playa. Here's how it works. When you have this question, the best strategy to use is write out a few sequence. A lot of people don't write this out, and they are gonna get slaughtered. Okay? To see what the question is looking for. What the question is looking for. You have all your formulas. Okay. Before I start, I'm going to give you all the formulas like one last time. You're going to use these formulas, and it's all word problems now. When I started teaching this, I started with something called a simple Tn formula. Tn equals to ARn minus 1. That's one formula I will not give you on your exam. There's a reason for that. Okay. Then I introduce Sn. A 1 minus Rn over 1 minus R. I introduce Sn2, which is A minus RL over 1 minus R. I introduced two formulas for you. I ended off yesterday with super infinity. Did anyone went home and watch White Man Can't Jump? No? Just to hear that one line over again? One. Whoa. You're just jealous. No one used that on you yet. So when a guy used that on you, you said, oh, you copied that line. So A over 1 minus R. As for what formula you use, that's where part of the question comes in. If you use the wrong formula on the word problem, you get a 0 automatically, no matter how much work you show. I repeat. So do not come crying to me and say, Mr. I wrote half a page of work. Why did I get 0 where this person wrote one line and got 0.5 marks? It's not about showing work, it's about using the right formula. Here is your first...
Can you get the same answer by using a different formula?
No, it's impossible.
So then
that means one of you cheated.
Anyway.
Sorry? Exactly.
So,
but people always beg for marks when they show me, when they write half a page of equation. Starts with a G, ends in a Y, second letter is the R. Grumpy! Try this one. If 128 students, I'm going to show you type 1, enter a single tennis tournament. Singles, not a single. Tennis tournament. In China, we don't play tennis, we play ping pong. Okay. How many rounds must be played before one winner is found? How many rounds? See, anytime you're given a game question, I call this play on playa, because it's all about games. Must be played before you have a winner. Good luck. I give you all the formulas already. Your job is choose the right formula. If you choose the wrong formula, you get 0 automatically. No exceptions on your test. Doesn't matter if you write 2 pages of notes. See, I'm going to use the TN formula because I have 128.64 and I just plug it in. Now a lot of people are having trouble with TN. I know A is 128. This is 0.5. N minus 1. TN really is 1. So a lot of you will put in 1 and you solve for n using logs and all that stuff. Take a minute and just use logs, solve for n, and all the good stuff that you did before. Okay, no tricks. Very, very simple. N, you should equal to 8. A lot of you circle 8, high five your friend, but that is wrong. See, this is where the logic kicks in. This is wrong. Why is this wrong?
It's a negative, right?
Nope.
Because the last one is not going to verse anybody, so it's 7.
See, here's the reason why it's wrong. You have to realize 8 means how many terms there are. So there's 8 terms in total. But I underlined one word in this question, asking how many rounds must be played. Would you agree there are 8 terms in total? So let's write this down. Let's do 8 blanks.
Also, there's 9.
No, not 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So each round occurs here. This is round 1. Round 2. Round 3. There's 8 terms. We know there are 8 terms together. But really, that's not 8 rounds. So how many rounds are there? 7 rounds. This is why it's tough, because it requires a lot of logic to understand this. Okay? If you put 8, you will...
But you don't even know that there's 2 people playing tennis.
Sure it says. Well, it says right here. Enter as singles. Tennis.
Yeah, but like, what if you think it's just a single person playing?
Please, Crumbie, please. Question.
How would you know that?
You've used 2? No, that's fine. As long as you get 7. Okay, it depends on how you want to logic this out. The reason why is there are 8 terms, but in reality, when you get to, there are 7 rounds to get to the last person. So that's why there are 7. There are 7. Okay, would you agree there are 8 terms altogether? Because 1. But what the question is really asking you is, how many rounds must be played? To go from here to here, 128 to 64, that's round 1.
Oh, wait, the last one's going to
Okay.
be 1 person left, right? So
And they can play with the
playing
wall,
around.
just like you. Yeah. This is round 2. Round 3, 4, 5, 6. So really, there are 7 rounds that must be played.
So would you always subtract 1 then from the
No, it depends on the question. This is why I said wording is crucial. And there are so many different ways they can word the question. I can't teach you all how they word the question. But you have to use logic. So this is why I said the best way to do this sort of thing is write out a few sequence. And see what they're looking for. They're not looking for how many terms. They're looking for these numbers right here. This is round 1. This is round 2. So it depends on your question. I can't say in every game play-on-player question, you always subtract 1. I can't say that because every question is different. Guys, let's try another one. Okay. I want you to turn to page 54. We're going to work together as a class on this one. Numero 1. Page 54, numero 1. And I'm going to pause it. I'll load it up for you. I'll cut and paste the question in case you're having trouble seeing. So here is question number 1. So you have 1.9 million players. Oh, sorry. You have 1,953,125 players enter a poker tournament. Only 1 in 5 will move on. How many rounds are played until a winner is found? Every year in Vegas, I don't know, it's on poker is really becoming more popular on TV these days. At around nighttime on Saturday, you see poker on TV. The reason why? Because people make so much money in Vegas. if you want to win every year, they have something called the.
Isn't it like rigged or something?
No, it's not rigged. It's called the poker tournament, and I forgot what's the name of it. It's poker tournament, whatever. The buy-in. Guess how much a buy-in is?
3 million.
Nope. Buy-in is how much you pay to enter the tournament.
Pretty cheap.
$10,000.
That's not cheap.
Yeah, it is. You're not even gonna make that back.
And if you're a top 100, you get over 100 and something thousand dollars back. But you got to be top one. How many people
How many
sign up?
enter, though?
About 10,000.
10,000?
Because everyone thinks they can be the next big guy to win, big champion. Okay.
But isn't poker also like luck kind of?
Oh, whoa. No. See, I always start off the problem when it comes to game questions. I write down what it is. I write down my sequence 1953 125. Now I'm gonna do my second number. I always write it down. Okay. It says only 1 and 5 will move on. So what's the second number going to be? 390. Wait, what is it, Sim? 39625.
Wait, how did you get that number?
Because I divided by 5. Because only 1 and 5 will move on. So basically, there's a 1/5 chance I'm going to move on. And I do it again. Sorry? 78125. So basically, I am looking what it is they're looking. They're looking for how many rounds are played. See, they're not looking for how many terms are there. They're looking for really, this is round 1. Round 2. So if I use this technique and I find n, so this is another Tn question. And I just put it in. Tn equals 1953 1, whoa, I'm missing some numbers. No, 1953 125, yep. Times, oh, I'm missing something. I'm missing a 3. Good, there we go. Times 1/5 to the power of n minus 1. And I sub it in and I solve for n.
Why is it 1/5?
Same thing as 0.2.
Because, how do you find r value? I take the second term divided by the first term, which is 0.2, which is 1/5. I also know 1/5 because it says only 1 and 5 will make it onto the next thing. Tn is 1. Because I want to know when is a winner found. And I use logs and all that stuff.
This kind of question always going to be a TN.
You know, you have to read it. If I ask you how many games are played in total, then it becomes an SN question. See, it's really tricky. So now I go n equals to, I find n using logs and all that stuff. Okay, nothing too bad. Abraham, did you get the n yet or no? 10. But is 10 my real answer or something else? So, Aaron, what should it be?
9.
So, really, there are 10 terms altogether. But what I'm really looking for is how many rounds, which mean there is 9 rounds. And that's my key answer. See, this is wording. One change in word changes the whole question round. I call this question play on playa. Because if you get this wrong, you'll be played on the exam. Okay? In a sudden, so this is called type 1. Type 2. Any questions on type 1 before I go? Anyone want to become professional poker players in the future? Oh, you? Sorry? What? Oh, for the, you will lose so much money. There are people who are so addicted to
You
it.
told me that I'm so good at it.
There are people who are addicted to poker. They spend their whole life savings and they gamble it all away. And where are they right now? They're just poor. Yeah. Type 2. Type 2, I don't really have a really fancy name for this. I call this oil well. Oil well questions. Oil. Oil well questions are famous on exams because a lot of people don't know what to do when it comes to this. Here's a typical question. I'm going to make it up right now. An oil well produces, so let's say you're in Alaska and you're drilling for oil. I don't know if you've seen that show, License to Drill, on TV, where now they actually make a documentary about people drilling and they get paid big bucks. Oil rig workers in Alaska get paid $100,000 a year Starting, lowest job ever. Okay? And that's just to whatever.
What is that, like a labor job?
Labor job, 100,000 just for labor.
What do they do?
Nothing. They just work, clean the pipes and all this stuff.
That's it?
Yep, 100,000. Oil well produces 50,000 liters of oil a month. There is a 5% drop each month. A 5% decrease each month.
It's off the.
Your question is this: when the well runs dry, how many liters of oil are produced altogether? Of oil is produced in total. Good luck. An oil well question, a lot of you think is going to be using the SN formula. This is not SN. This is actually S infinity. Here's the reason why. Because if I drop by 5% less each time, in theory, it never goes out. Never.
But why? I don't understand.
Okay, here's the reason why. Let's write this down. I'm going to show you why. So let's write down my first term, 50,000. What's my second term going to be?
47,500.
47,500? Okay. Find my third term. Oh, well, how do you find it? So there's a 5% drop. So let's show you how this is done. Alright. So watch what I'm going to do. I start with 50,000, right? I go 5% drop times 0.05. I have 2,500. But what did I do with that number? I subtracted. And that's how you get 47,500. Now, find my third term for me. 0.05. Actually, I'll just do a shortcut. My third term is 45125. 45125. See, the numbers are getting smaller, but it will never ever hit 0. It will probably hit 0.0006, 0.0009, but it will never ever touch 0 because it keeps on 5% less and less. So now we know it's S infinity. Guys and gals, go ahead and plug in your formula. So in total, my sum, I'm starting out with 50,000. Here's where you got to be careful. I'm going to guarantee some of you on the exam will go 0.05. This is wrong. I'm going to write this down, star. Be careful about this. Okay? It is not 0.05. Just like log question. Remember log question when they asked you light decrease it by 5%? Whoa. Decrease. Just like the log question, we go 5% less is actually 0.95.
Or you can just run the second term of the first.
Yep, you could. Or a second term, but no matter what, you get 0.95. If you go 0.05, you will lose marks because it's not 0.05. Guys, gals, go ahead and figure this one out right now.
What's the other way of doing it?
Because, nope, you're not adding, you're subtracting. Because 5% decrease. Remember how you did logs?
We can take the second number and divide by the
Hi.
first number and then
Hey.
that's
Or
if we ever need to do something.
Or we can say there's a 5% decrease, so it's be 0.95.
How would you know it's
50,000 divided by 0.05, you will have 1 million liters of oil produced when this well runs dry. So in this case, you have 1 million liters of oil produced. Okay. I'm going to give you a question. You can try this out. Turn to page 54, number 13, please. 13. This question does not talk about an oil well, but it has the same concept. Your job is to read the question and figure out what it is talking about. And again, I'll cut and paste for you. We're working with number 13. I'll cut and paste for you so you can see.
Is it an infinity or whatever?
See, you gotta know the type. Is this type 2 question? Or what? 13. Woo. A weather balloon rises 100 meters in the first minute. Each minute after, it rises 4% less than the previous minute. What is the maximum height reached by the balloon? Good luck.
It's the same.
Now, I know this is very similar to the oil well question. I don't really need to write the 3 terms. You could if you want. But I go, this is S infinity. Okay? I don't need to write out the terms because I know this is oil. So, 100 over 1 minus, now be careful, R. R is not 0.04. 0.96. Okay? And this is where majority of kids will make error right here. Because I want 4% less. 4% less is 96%. I don't need to take second term divided by first term. I just use common sense. And guys, let's just divide right now. 100 divided by 0.04. 2,500 meters. Voila. This is called type 2. I'm going to pause it right here. Type 1.
Did the recording work?
I don't know. So I didn't try it out yet. Oh, I will know when it's over. Type 1 remembers play on playa, and that's a game theory question. Type 2 is an oil well question where you have to know it's S infinity. And finally, type 3, which is actually my favorite type, and this is the type that gets a lot of people in trouble. Yep, type 3. In Vancouver, when I teach type 3, I call it bounce, baby, bounce. Well, but in Surrey, I call it bounce, billa, bounce. See? I make modifications. So when I teach this in Vancouver, in summer school, I call it bounce, baby, bounce. But in Surrey, I changed it to bounce, billa, bounce. Kitchen. Billo, billa, potato, potato, potato. Potato, potato, you know, that sort of thing.
No, not potato.
So here's how this works. And if you've taken Math 12 before, you know this is a really famous question because it's on every exam. It's guaranteed. 99.9% of it of time you will see this question in exam. And it starts something like this.
It said not on every exam.
Not on every. It is on every exam. Here is your question, and this will be your super no question for today. Whoa. Please, you will get into groups. This is a team challenge. Good. Again, good luck. This is your team challenge for today. So you can only join if you're by yourself. You can only join a group with 2 people in it. If there's only... Here we go. Here's how the question works. A ball is dropped from a height. You shouldn't need me to figure it out how to do this, but there's a reason why I call it bounce, billa, bounce. From a height whoa of 60 meters. It bounces.
Is that what you call it?
Height back to 70% of its previous height. I actually gave this question to my Math 11s, and one group actually got it without having seen this done before. Okay,
How
so
did you get it? Did you have the formulas?
They did. Grade 11s learned this too. They changed the new curriculum. When you're in grade 11, you learn this exact same thing as grade 12 right now. So I want to see if you guys are smarter than my grade 11s. Of its previous height, find the total vertical distance, which is the total distance. Vertical distance traveled when the ball stops bouncing. Can't say. You're going to work in your groups. Stops bouncing. So find the total distance traveled when the ball stops bouncing. You have about... Here's what happened. Best way. Let's draw a diagram. 60. So my first number is 60. I bounce. And it's 70% of the previous height. So which is going to be? 42. Again, I keep going. When does it end? Wrong.
No,
It never ends.
It's still bouncing.
Because
It's
if...
still moving, right?
Yep. In theory, but some of you say, but mister, if I drop a ball, it stops. But in theory, if I keep going 70% of the previous height, the number is so small that we assume it never stops bouncing. This is actually an infinite question. Infinite. That's the first thing you should see.
So all percent questions are equal?
Sorry?
All percent questions are equal?
No, I can't say that. Like I said,
That's so far, that's what happened.
it's going to be on your work, you see. So now, I have this. Basically, we have 60 over 1 minus 0.7, which is 60 over 0.3. And a lot of you say, hey, so this is easy. It's 200 meters. But I call this question bounce below bounce, because you forgot to bounce it. See, in reality, it went... there we go. It went 60... Do you have bouncing questions on your exam? It is, because of all bounces. In reality, it's 60, then it went down 42, but it does... What's the next reality? What happens next? It goes up 42. Okay? Because here's 42. It bounces 42, right? But then it drops down another 42. So in reality, there's another bounce. So then, what do you think I'm going to do with this number? No, not add 2. Times 2. So why don't we multiply by 2 right now? Because we have to account for the bouncing factor. So a lot of you say, hey, so you can't trick me anymore, it's 400. But that is also wrong. You have to minus 60. And that's the last twist to this question. Here's the reason why. This is why it's called logic. See, if I multiply everything here by 60, if I multiply everything by 2, notice one thing. The 60 is never bounced up to 60. So therefore, I subtract 60. Because if you multiply everything by 2, you're assuming it bounces back to 60 meters, but it never bounces back to 60 meters. So in reality, my answer is 340 meters. One question like this worth 3 marks, 10% of your exam. Try another one. Okay. What's going on? Why do you multiply by 2? Because you're assuming, if you don't multiply by 2, you're just assuming the ball drops to 42. But it bounces back up to the exact same height. Drops down, bounces back to the exact same height, drops down. So really, there's a 42, more number of the same thing. So we multiply by 2, but you got to subtract by the original height, because it never bounces back to the original height. Okay? I'm going to give you another question. Same format. You're going to try this and see, and this is why I said this question is worth 10% of your exam. A golf ball is dropped from a cliff 100 meters high. The ball bounces. So now you know why I call it bounce below bounce, because you have to bounce it. On the exam, I guarantee a lot of people will not bounce. The ball bounces to 3/4 of its previous height. Yep. Same thing. A. I'm going to break up this question into many parts. Find total distance traveled. That's your first part. I'm going to break up this one question to 3 parts. And you're going to see the different way I can ask you one question. Okay? Guys, I'm going to... So if you're lost, my first hit 100 meters, 75. Okay. Now, I can do 75 again, but let's not confuse ourselves. So I go 75 times 0.75. Yep. Just see what my third bounce is like. About 56.25. 0.25. Okay. And in reality, I know the ball never stops bouncing, even though you will argue with me and say, Mr. No, if I drop a ball, it stops bouncing. We're going to assume it goes on forever. So if it goes on forever, I'm going to use my infinite formula. 100 over 1 minus 0.75. And just punch in our calculator right now. 100 divided by 0.25 gives you 400. But that's not my answer. You got to times it by 2. Because this is called the bounce factor. We got to bounce it. Okay, because we're assuming the ball bounces. Again, there's the word always. I can, like I said, Grumpy, I'm going to show you where you don't. This is what I said. I'm not going to say anything. You have to read the question. That's 800. But here's a problem. You have to minus 100. Because if you multiply everything by 2, you're assuming that it bounces back up to 100 meters. It never bounced back up to 100 meters.
It's going to keep on bouncing at 400 meters?
Sorry?
You're saying it's going to keep on bouncing at 400 meters?
That's a total.
That's your total. That's the total distance traveled. No, not it's keep on bouncing. So in reality, my final answer is 700. On your exam, if you make a mistake, it's right here. You didn't multiply by 2. Or you didn't...
Multiply by 2 after you've done all the work?
Hi. So after you get your infinite, you multiply by 2 because you're going to bounce the ball. And then you got to subtract from your original. Here's part B. Look how I'm going to change the question. Exact same question, but I'm going to change it this time. Find the vertical height. Vertical height after the 7th bounce. See, this is the reason why I said I will not comment on anything about, Mr. No, is it always S infinity when it comes to this type of question? In this question, what are they looking for? And that's, if you're stuck, I'm going to draw a little diagram. I'm looking for the vertical height after the 7th bounce. Let's draw. First bounce. Second bounce. Third bounce. 4th. 5th. 6th. 7th. After 7th bounce, this is what I'm looking for right here. That bounce. Okay. My first number is 100. This is going to be 75. So I'm looking for not the 7th term, but I'm looking for the 8th term. So that's where some of you are making errors. Here, I'm looking for the 8th term. N equals to 8. So now, use your TN formula. So this is the reason why I said I can't comment on when you said always this, always that. 100 times 0.75 to the power of 8 minus 1. That equals to 100 times, so let's do this right now. Hi.
What if it said on the 7th bounce?
On the 7th bounce?
So then
I'm going to be more clear for you, but it's going to say after.
NV7 then?
Yep. Okay. 7. This is why I said the wording is extremely tricky. Times 100, which is 13.3. So my answer is 13.3 meters. And notice one thing. I'm not timesing by 2. I don't need to times it by 2 because I'm just looking for what is the height at that after the 7th bounce. Here is your part C to this one. And you're going to see how I change it by adding or taking away a few words. C. the total distance traveled when it contacts the floor for the 7th time. So the moment it hits 7, bam, you stop. There's no more, nothing after that. For the 7th time. Okay. What is the total distance traveled when it made contacts with the floor for the 7th time? Once hit the ground 7 times, that's it. There's no more after that. You stop. Okay. So now your question is, I'm looking for total distance. So which no, I'm using the S formula. Now, I'm not using the infinite formula because it's telling you how many times I want. So this is really S of 7. Some of you will argue and say, Ms. No, shouldn't N be 8? Because after, see, it says the ball stops bouncing the moment it hits the ground 7 times. There's nothing after that, so it ends here. So in reality, there's only 7 terms. So we use the S7 formula, which is A times 1 minus R to the power of N over 1 minus R. Plug it in and solve it right now. 100 times 1 minus 0.75 to the power of 7 over 1 minus 0.75. And just punch it in my calculator right now. Okay, here's my calculator. Let's clear up this stuff up. 1 minus 0.75 to the power of 7 times 100 divided by 0.25. 346.6. Is that my answer? No. You gotta do a few more steps. Go ahead. I'm gonna pause it. Let you figure out what, before you subtract, what do you do first? Multiply by 2.
Why did you multiply by 2?
Bounce below. Bounce. Because it's
They're
bouncing.
asking for the
Total distance. Yes, yes. Okay. So you gotta multiply by 2 times 2 is 693. But you gotta do one more thing. Minus 100. If you multiply by 2, you got a minus 100. That's rule of thumb. 593.21. Okay, so which is 693 minus 100, and you should have 593.21.
How do you know when to multiply by 2?
If you multiply by 2, you gotta subtract 100.
But when you
How do you know?
like, you're supposed to do that.
Because they're asking for this total distance. When you're looking for the total distance, which means I have to calculate this bounce up and down.
Total distance.
Yep, but looking for this one, they ask you what's the vertical height. I'm not looking for the total height.
Because it hits the ground twice between the bounce rate.
Yep. See, for this one, is asking you what's the height after 7th bounce, which is a TN formula. That's the difference in question. And this is called type 3. How about I give you one more question so you guys... Try this one. Just one more question. If I see you get the hang of it, I'm going to end our lesson for today. And it's type 3. Ball. Dropped. Again, I'm just going to use point forms because most of you should be able to do this now. From 40 meters. It's going to be 20% of previous height. I'll give you a few questions. A. Find height after 5th bounce.
So N is equal to 6.
You can do whatever you like. B. Find total distance when it stops bouncing. C. Find total distance when it contacts the ground for the 9th time. Guys, this is a class exam question.
Gonna make you find all of this?
Height. Is it that hard? Just what formula are you going to use for A? See, A is actually Tn is correct. Tn equals to 40 times 0.2 to the power of n minus 1. Irish, what's n going to be? N is 6. Yeah. Again, guys, all you have to do is solve for that, which I'm not going to do. You can actually do that on your own easily. B. Height. 0.2. Because it's 20% of previous height. That's how. Height. Question. Whoa, what multiplied by 2? Yeah, you do for the total distance. For B,
No, how do you get 0.2?
hi- if it's 20% of previous height, your first number is 40, right?
Yeah.
What's your second term? 20% of the previous one.
332.
So 40 times 0.2, which is 8. Okay?
40 minus 8.
Oh, you just do that?
And then you want to do the third term times 0.2,
Oh,
1.6. So what's the R value? R is 0.2. What's your height? Whoa. For Tn? No. Not for Tn. Only for distance total. For B, notice I say total distance when it stops. Well, in theory, it never stops. So we just use that S infinity formula. 4t over 1 minus 0.2. But question. Again, so let's do this right now. 4t divided by 0.8 gives you 50 times 2 equals to 100 minus 40, 60. Voila. Again, if you forget 2 times 2 and minus original, I know some of you will. You're going to lose marks. C. Find total distance when it contacts the ground for the 9th time. So really, this is just an S9 formula. And we just plug it in. 40 times 1 minus 0.2 to the power of 9 over 0.8. Whatever that answer is, let's figure it out right now. 1 minus 0.2 to the power of 9.
0.8 on the bottom,
Because it's 1 minus r,
which would be
0.8.
So you said always 0.2.
yeah, isn't R 0.2?
Uh-huh.
And then you get
And then, yes, it's correct. I always never mind. Okay. Divided by 0.8. But we're not done yet. I got to multiply that by 2. Subtracted by 40. So really you add 59.9999999 meters.
So we just write 60 then?
No, just do 59.99999, whatever it is. So don't forget, take your answer times 2 minus 40, and you should be at 59.999 something. Guys, that is how we do type 1, type 2, type 3. All you really need is practice, so I'm going to give you some practice. Page 54. Numero 1 to 14. Guys, that ends all your lesson for this unit. You can actually start the review now if you want, because I've taught you everything there is.